Hey guys, just want to welcome you to Rollers Kit and thank you everyone for supporting and grabbing this kit. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun creating with this tool. So the first thing to do with this project is I would recommend you to save it as a new file. This will prevent you from overwriting any of the default settings in case you want to ever start from scratch. So call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it V2. Again, this just helps because you may want to come back to the original Rollers kit, but if you don't save it as a new file, you might lose all the settings. So it's important to create a new file every time you want to create a new track or idea with this tool. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is walk you through how I've set up this project. So once opening the project, you will notice that there are three groups. So I've separated the sounds into these three categories, which are the drums, the bass, and all other sounds. So if you click on this button, it will expand and you'll see all the available sounds in this group. So under the drums group, there are a number of different single hit as well as loops. So you have the modular kick, modular snare. This allows you to create custom kick and snare sounds, and very proud of this instrument. Essentially is a drum synth, which is quite powerful and allows you to create some very modern sounding kick and snares for drum and bass and UK bass music. Then on to the right, you have these blue colored tracks or instruments. These are more sample players. So you have a kick sample player. So the difference of this kick and this modular kick is this one is playing samples, where this one is generating the kick from scratch, from synthesis. So you're synthesizing the sound. Here we have a bunch of different kick sounds which you can access and then modify. Same thing with the snare versus the modular snare. This is a sampler. It plays different samples of a snare. Then we have the ghost snare, hi-hats, jungle shaker, and you have a number of break beats following. I'll go through in detail how to use these instruments shortly. Just want to walk you through what's in these groups. So expanding the bass folder, we have a number of bass instruments, from a wub instrument, wobble, there's a foghorn instrument, there's a number of different other wobble sounds, there's an 808 sound, and so forth. And this is where the main meat of the track belongs. Pretty much, if you're making bass-oriented music, this is the bulk of the energy of the track. So that's the bass section. And then following, we have the sounds section, which are pretty much all the sounds that fall on top of the drums and bass. So we have the zinger, which is a stab sound. We have a number of the lead and atmospheric sounds, and then we have some effects sounds. So that's the way this project is set up. And typically how I would play with this project is I would probably start with the drums first. Now, by default, nothing should be playing, but if you open up the track and you hear something, like I'm going to hit play. The reason why something is playing is I have a number of these clips that have already been activated beforehand. So you'll see there's a green button indicating that these clips are activated. Just hit on the stop button under the master section on the far right, and this will disengage all the clips so you can now start from scratch. So when I hit play, you don't hear anything. So right off the bat, how I would recommend you to start building with this kit. Now, of course, you can start the other way around. You can start playing with the sounds and then the bass, but the easiest is to start with the drums. And I've designed this in a way that makes it pretty easy to combine different clips and for it all to work seamlessly together. And the reason why is I wrote everything in the key of F minor, that is, so that if you mix a clip from this bass section with maybe a stab sound from this section, it should always work because everything is in the key of F. So this allows you to mix and match clips however you like to create new compositions. And that's what's great, and what's the power behind this tool is that no two people can ever have the same result if they were to play with it independently, because you have so much flexibility. You can open and launch different clips and combinations. You can modify the sounds of the given macros, which I'll walk you through later. But first and foremost, let's try playing with the drum sounds. So I'm going to open up the drums and let's try playing with the modular kick. We won't go into modifying the sounds just yet. We'll save that for the next section. But for example, look at the kick section and you have a number of different clips here, from basic two-step drum and bass patterns to halftime patterns, hip hop, and even footwork. Then we have a number of like kick roll patterns here. So you can launch any of these clips to hear what's behind the clip. If you want to see what's inside, you can double click and you can see this is the pattern. Let's keep going. Okay, so a lot of patterns here. Again, all I would recommend you to get familiar with this kit is just start launching clips. So I'll launch this kick pattern. Let's launch the snare. Okay, so if you were to use the modular kick and snare, I wouldn't use the kick and snare samplers together. They're meant to be used, I guess, independently, meaning if you were to layer these together, it might get a bit loud. That's not to say you shouldn't try it. You might get some cool results by layering these together. It's just that if you were to do that, you may want to remove some of the low end from one kick. So this would be like the top of the kick and this would be the bottom of the kick. But we can go into that later. I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet. Just want to show you the basics. So we're going to skip these two tracks for now because we have these launched. And then we can launch a hi-hat. So there's a number of different hi-hat patterns here. And each one of these have a different groove. So I like this shaker quantized pattern especially. It's perfect for rollers, drum and bass, because of the way I've arranged the hi-hats has this really tight and groovy pattern. Then we can add maybe a ghost snare. Okay, and then we can add a jungle shaker. You could also add some other breaks on top. So these four are breaks. So there's the Sandman break, there's the Dark Soldier, there's the Reese break, there's an Amen break. I would say if you were to use the break, I would use them independently unless you're only using the shaker element. So what I mean by that is, for example, we have the Sandman full. Now, so there's a filter here that I have to turn off here. So this break, the full section, this should be played independently. Otherwise, you can use the shaker, right? Because if you're layering so many kick and snares, it might get messy. Let's go into the bass section. Now let's launch a bass pattern. So the way I've organized the bass is that there are a number of call and response patterns. So if you look at each row, you'll see that, for example, we have this one, R1 wub, and then there's a corresponding R1 wobble. So the way I've named these clips is that there is a matching clip. So the R1 wub has a matching R1 wobble. So if we can launch this entire scene by clicking this play button under the bass section. I'm just gonna add some wub to the sound. Alright, so you can see how quickly you can get some results just by launching some clips. Let's show you some more of these clips. If you keep going down, there's more. And then I have a number of clips here that have another prefix. Instead of R, it's B. B for bass line. So these are long bass lines using only one instrument. So instead of call and response, it's dedicated to one sound. Here's some shorter ones using the 808 pattern here. Here's one more call and response with back to the R's. So pretty cool results, again, just by launching some clips. Now, just because you have a clip, for example, here, doesn't mean it has to be played by these two instruments. So you can experiment by dragging this clip over. Instead of the wobble, we can play maybe the noise wobble, right? Right? Or maybe let's try the sine wobble. Or the growly. Right? So there's lots of room for experimentation here. All right, and then let's keep going. We can expand on the sounds section. And here are a number of melodic sounds. Okay, let's add a lead sound. This lead is a bit loud, so under each of these instruments, I have the utility, which you can adjust the gain. And let's add some atmospheric sounds. Maybe add a jungle bleep. And then maybe a brass sound. As you can see, really fun and really quick to drop some ideas just by launching a bunch of different clips. So this is how you use the project real quick. This is kind of a quick start. And then the following sections, I'm going to show you how to really take this tool to the next level by customizing sounds and really making this the most and getting the most out of this, all the instruments and settings in this tool.